So we're on the plane now getting ready to go to Havana, Cuba. We have this entire charter flight full of people and, as important, full of medicines. And we're so excited to be with the Cuban people and show our support, show our solidarity, and to say that this cruel, inhumane, barbaric policy of the Trump administration has to go.
What part was I confused upon? Because right now the crisis is getting worse, and the U.S. is absolutely telling other nations, you cannot provide them oil or we will sanction you. If you do this, if you help these people, we will punish you for it. That's all it is. You can argue that there's so much more nuance behind it, but that is the basics of the idea. And right now, only 4% of the island can access electricity. Can you imagine 4% of America only being able to access electricity? Like, the rest of the world, the rest of the country would crumble. Like, they can't keep food in their fridges because the blackouts have been happening so often, and now it's pretty much permanent, that they can't keep food safe, meaning they are not going to be able to access drinking water that is safe, which means they can't access medicine that they need in case they get sick. Sewage is flowing in the streets. Like, this is a humanitarian crisis, and guess what? It's caused by American policies. And then we're all going to act super shocked and surprised when the Cubans start to migrate to America.
If you've been seeing videos about Cuba's electrical grid collapsing and leaving millions of people without electricity, I want you to look at this video from when I was in Cuba in November.
So I came to a hotel to get Wi-Fi, and the power just went out. It's still in Cuba. This is something that has been consistently happening. Not a problem for me, but it's just alarming, the things that people don't know. Also, TikTok is banned in Cuba, so probably why you don't see a lot of information about what's going on the ground is because it is banned. And I'm actually staying with a Cuban family, with a local family, but I came here because I knew I'd be able to find like some semblance of Wi-Fi, because the Wi-Fi is not as strong in the homes. But let y'all see, literally in a hotel, in a cafe, power completely out.
Now, one of the reasons that I went and ventured off to a hotel to find Wi-Fi is that these sanctions go beyond just fuel. I have T-Mobile. When I was going there the first time, they were like, yeah, we don't have any connections or support in Cuba. So where traditionally you can connect to a local international network, T-Mobile does not. And when I tried to attempt to buy a SIM card, it would not allow it to happen for my phone. Also, the first time I went to Cuba, people said, oh, we want to send you like a little something so that way you can give to the people and support. So because two people sent money to my Cash App, one person put Cuba, for Cuba, in the subject, and another person put the Cuban flag, I actually got my Cash App deleted. Which, I'm not mad at the people, I'm mad at the sanctions, because I wasn't even in Cuba yet. And what if I was in Cuba as American, potentially stranded or something, and family members were sending me money? Our government has made it so hard to try to attempt to help Cuban people that folks have had to do gymnastics even with just contacting folks in Cuba or trying to send them money. So if you're someone interested in helping, go to my bio. There's a fleet full of folks that are going to Cuba, and this aid and this money will be given hand to hand.
Breaking news and think piece about how Donald Trump and Israel's illegal war against Iran may have just cost the United States of America Cuba. So if y'all don't know, the United States have been starving Cuba as well as keeping them in a blackout by intercepting the tankers that have been trying to deliver them fuel. What did China do? While the United States was occupied with Israel and Iran, China sent Cuba 5,000 solar panel sets. All right. Which is not only a good humanitarian move, but also establishing more Chinese presence in the region of Latin America. Furthermore, in March 2026, China sent 5,000 household solar energy equipment sets to Cuba to help alleviate a total national power blackout. These sets are being installed at rural homes, clinics, and elderly care centers. Additionally, China is assisting with 49 solar parks and has over 10,000 total individual kits planned to boost Cuba's solar capacity. Now, let's stop right here really quick. I'm not going to pretend to know the struggles of Cuba, and I'm not going to pretend to know what everything that the Cuban people went through. But for you all to sit up there and act like you are so hell-bent on freeing Cuba while 10,000 children are in the hospitals and not able to receive proper care, while 3,000 adults are in the hospital unable to send proper care. It doesn't matter how bad you want the Cuban economy or government to fall so you can free it. You should also consider your fellow compadres in Cuba as well as the children of Cuba. That's why sometimes y'all priorities and y'all morals be so messed up, because yes, I understand you want to free your country, but you want to free your country at the expense of 13,000 innocent lives? Make it make sense. Anyway, these 2 kilowatt capacity kits are designed for homes in remote area and critical infrastructure such as maternity and nursing homes. These installations aim to support a national energy crisis in which solar power has grown to provide over 20% of the island's electricity. Now, let's bring in Mexico. Mexico has set to resume fuel shipments to Cuba despite U.S. threats, because as y'all know, before the war in Iran started, Mexico tried to send 5 tankers of fuel to Cuba, which the USA was intercepting. But now, because the USA is so preoccupied with the Strait of Hormuz and sending all the resources that way, now Mexico is able to get those fuel shipments over to Cuba. Additionally, on top of fuel and solar power, China has sent 60,000 tons of rice to the people of Cuba. Okay, now let's put it in the context. The average Cuban consumes 60 kilograms of rice every year. China just donated enough rice on one batch to feed all of Cuba for 1 month. And I said this before and I'm gonna say it again. For years, they tried to make us think that China was the boogeyman when China has been nothing but humanitarian in our eyes over the past couple of months, realistically over the past year or two, right? That's why it's so important to analyze and read and learn for yourself, because in the famous words of Malcolm X, they will have you hating the victims and loving the oppressors, right? But let's continue. I'm just sharing this post because I love the wording of it. Mexico will send oil to Cuba. Trump's blockade has fallen. 60 years of embargo, 60 years of trying to starve an island. Now Mexico breaks the siege. Oil shipments, solidarity, sovereignty. The U.S. can sanction, can threaten, can block. But neighbors help, neighbors deliver, neighbors don't forget. Cuba has been alone too long. Mexico just changed that. The blockade isn't gone, but it's cracked. And the cracks spread. Mexico sends oil, the world watches, the empire fumes. Solidarity wins every time. So you see what happens when you get involved with illegal and unjust wars against not only countries that are seemingly stronger than you and that are beating you on every single area, such as Iran is doing to us right now, which is why I will never stop saying bring our troops home. But not only do you get preoccupied and losing wars, but you also lose out on the objectives that you had, because while the USA got so busy with Iran, Cuba just slipped away from them, and it's going to slip away from them more in the coming weeks. Now listen, I'm not going to pretend like I know the politics of Cuba. There's a lot of Cubans here in Miami, and I don't know what their personal gripes are with the Cuban government, and I don't know if I don't know if the current administration in Cuba is similar to Fidel Castro. I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on, but I'm going to pretend to know what's going on in terms of 10,000 children being in the hospital and needing that fuel for their operations and for their treatments. And if you are against 10,000 children getting treatments, I don't care what happened between you and your, history in Cuba, you are not a good person. When there are 3,000 elderly people that are dependent on this fuel for treatments, for surgeries, etc., and you are still so hell-bent on freeing Cuba, even at the expense of these 13,000 lives, you might need to question your own morals, because you may be a person that has lost your soul. This is my think piece. Let me know what y'all think. If you are Cuban, chime in the comment section. I'm not judging y'all. I'm just calling it how I see it. It is 2:55 a.m., March 20th, 2026. Follow me for more updates, breaking news, think pieces, and beyond.
Cuba's power grid is collapsed. The island has been dark for days. Russia sent oil tankers to help, and the world packed medicine and solar panels, and that's getting through, thankfully. But the oil, today, the United States blocked that too. I've been to Cuba. I've walked those streets. This is not a victory. It's a humanitarian crisis, and the United States is engineering it. We're complicit. Last week, Trump publicly mused about having the honor of taking Cuba, spoken like a man who is used to getting what he wants, a man accused of sexual assault numerous times. Disgusting. Here's what I think what's actually going on. Trump has wanted to build hotels, casinos, and golf courses in Cuba since 1998. He registered the Trump trademark there in 2008. There are actual sketches of the Trump Tower Havana. So when he talks about taking Cuba, I don't hear freedom. I hear oceanfront real estate. I hear greed. Between 2021 and 2023, 850,000 Cubans left for the United States. That's nearly 8% of the entire population, leaving Cuba seeking opportunity. Now, Trump has banned their visas and is deporting the ones who made it. 403 people have been sent back since January. So what are we doing? Blocking the oil, collapsing the grid, ban the legal path here, deport the ones who made it. That is not policy. That's a siege. And the numbers on the ground in Cuba are staggering. 64% of the island has no reliable power. The average Cuban is in the dark 15 to 20 hours a day, and even hospitals are facing regular interruptions. Internet traffic dropped 65% when the grid went down, and most Cubans can't get online. It's always been challenging there, but right now it's especially bad. They can't see what's being said about them. They are in the dark in every sense of the word. I made a video with the full history, and I'm going to tag that in the comments. You can see what it looks like here. But the short version, layered U.S. sanctions, COVID, and a full oil blockade have left Cuba's reserves near zero. But thankfully, the rest of the world is showing up, or at least they're trying to. An international convoy delivered 5 tons of medical supplies, cancer drugs, antibiotics, surgical materials, all valued at over $570,000. That arrived March 18th. Travelers are hand-carrying medical kits on commercial flights all week. And a Mexican flotilla departed the port of Progreso on the 19th. 140 activists left Miami this morning with more aid. And tomorrow, March 21st, they will all converge at the port of Havana. 20 tons of food, medicine, and solar panels. And Russia had 2 tankers en route, 730,000 barrels of crude, enough for 9 to 10 days, just 9 to 10 days of Cuban energy needs. The first shipment from any nation in 3 months. And then today, the United States Treasury formally blocked it, while the ships are already in the water. How does the U.S. have this power? Well, on January 29th of this year, Trump signed Executive Order 14380, officially declaring Cuba as a national security threat, triggering a law called IEEPA, which lets him sanction any foreign entity doing business with Cuba. OFAC, the Treasury's enforcement arm, blacklists the ships directly. And once blacklisted, they're cut off completely from the global financial system because the world runs on US dollars. No bank will touch them, and no American-linked port will let them dock. Defy it, and your country faces tariffs. That's American economic power, weaponized against a small island right now. If blocking a civilian population's energy supply while calling it policy sounds familiar, it should. We watched this in Gaza. Different country, same playbook. Ordinary people paying the price for political chess. Look, you can want change for Cuba and believe there's a legal, humane path to get there, one that doesn't involve starving people into submission. I'm beside myself over this. Tell me where you stand in the comments, and be sure to like, share, and follow. Unfortunately, this story is far from over, and my heart is breaking for the Cuban people. The full history is tagged below. Thanks for watching.
Se fue la luz.
¿Qué cosa? Oye,
Chuches.
voy yo. Voy yo. Caballero. Espérate. Caballero. Ay, caballero. Este me pasa él.
Well, guys, the sun's going down. They told me I should leave at night, but we're gonna stay and have dinner with this lovely family. So. Oh my gosh. They said they're embarrassed to walk with an American. This is hilarious. Vamos a jugar. Quiero ver cómo ustedes juegan.
Yo soy.
Dale caña, dale caña.
Dale caña, dale.
Hola. Otro día en el barrio, ¿no? Otro día en el barrio. Chao, mis niños.
Chao.
Major news out of Cuba right now, where a convoy of creators, activists, journalists, and more have landed in Havana to deliver aid to the Cuban people who are under a blockade and an illegal siege by the empire of the United States led by dictator Donald Trump. The Cuban people right now are with a broken electrical grid. They are struggling to eat and to have water, and there is a shortage of medical supplies, which is why you see this coalition of people from all over the world joining forces to not only deliver aid to the Cuban people, but also to expose the crimes against humanity that are being committed by the United States of America under the Trump administration, and to try and expose the stories of what's happening on the ground to break this blockade. I've got multiple friends and colleagues who are on the ground in Havana right now, and if I get updates from them, I will gladly share them with you. But this is an absolutely positive development we are seeing from real American patriots, as well as, like I said, people from all over the world. You've got people from Spain, from France, from other parts of Latin America, just like we saw the flotilla join forces of people from all over the world to try and deliver aid to Gaza.
Let me ask you something. Did you see what Trump just said about Cuba?
Cuba, see, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth?
My friends, Cuba's entire electrical grid collapsed. Again, not just a blackout in one city, by the way. I'm talking about the whole island. Hospitals are running on generators, food is rotting in refrigerators, water pumps aren't working in some places, and people inside Cuba have been posting videos showing neighborhoods sitting in complete darkness, banging pots and pans at night to protest because they've had 15-plus-hour blackouts for weeks. Okay? Students have protested. People have taken to the streets. Some protests even targeted Communist Party offices because people are desperate. For the average Cuban family, this isn't politics. This is whether their kids eat tomorrow or don't. Whether their insulin stays cold, whether their grandparents survive the heat. That's the reality of the island right now. Here's the part that this administration is not letting you know about. The huge reason Cuba is in the energy crisis that it is right now is because of the sanctions and pressure on countries that supply them fuel. Oil shipments dried up, their power plants can't run without fuel, the grid collapses. By the way, all done by us. So now the same administration that helped tighten the pressure on the island is acting like they're the solution to the problem they helped create. That's, once again, what this leadership thinks is right in what they're doing. That's like starting a fire, by the way, and then showing up with a hose acting like you're the hero. So as always, I would like to ask you a direct question. When millions of people in Cuba are sitting in the dark and the so-called president of the United States starts talking about taking the country, how does that make you feel? Do you think that that's anywhere near what leadership is supposed to be doing? Is it what the American public wants, the citizens that elected these officials to be in office? Please make sure you like this video, share it, bookmark it, repost it, and as always, let's talk about it.
Cuba in crisis right now, and Jamaica is paying attention. Right now, Cuba is in a deep economic and energy crisis. Massive blackouts, food and fuel shortages, and growing protests as people demand change. Protesters have even clashed with authorities over frequent power cuts and lack of basic needs. Cuba's government is now talking with the U.S. to try ease an oil blockade that has worsened everything. And some prisoners are being released as a goodwill gesture. And here in Jamaica, our government is monitoring more than 300 students studying in Cuba, while medical cooperation between the two countries has officially changed. Should Jamaica and the Caribbean get more involved? What should we do?
One thing I've heard in Cuba, and this is heartbreaking, is we can't really have babies easy. Women don't want to have babies. It's too much. We don't have enough nutrition. If we can't take care of ourselves, ¿cómo vamos a cuidar a los niños? So I don't know the exact numbers, but between migration and everything, lots of despopulation, like a depopulation effect.
Se puede decir con los piquetes.
You can see kind of the ghost town effect, and really it's sometimes it feels like a nation of ancianos, of old people.
Calling you to ask you if you know who Dad, girl. No. It's a good thing you sitting down. Chuck, Dad. Chuck. Chuck, mommy. Walker, Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris, girl.
Man.
Girl.
My Chuck?
Yeah, Chuck, Dad, girl. Chuck, Dad.
Man, this morning?
Girl, I say today, I calling.
But I watch TV all day now. You see them for
Chuck, Dad, child.
Chuck Norris?
Chuck Norris.
My one kick roundhouse.
Joined the stiff toe gang. Well, he's 86.
Yeah, but what happened?
I don't know. That must be. I calling you. I say I know. I say I know. Cordy ain't know this.
No, because I watch TV until Charmaine come for me shortly after 9.
Chuck, you dead?
After 9.
Chuck dead.
Oh, mommy. Chuck Norris. My Chuck Norris.
Bereavement, gal.
And I watch.
It's a good thing. You ain't got to go into work because you might need days off.
I need fucking a year off. But that's my.
This is NWC water. NWC water. So this is about $20, right? Of course. That was I brought it here. No, when I heard.
Right now, Andrew just fuck up the third term. Why would Andrew come and expose him lies like this? You know, see, NWC said the bottled waters are not for the public. These bottled water by NWC, they are not on the market. They are solely to give out for free at government functions. See it here? At NWC say it free, they are not supposed to be sold. So why would Andrew come and tell a lie like this to the nation? That man are evil. That man are wicked and evil. See it here, Jamaica. This is what NWC say. Free. It is not on the market. How Andrew said these water for $20? Which planet he live?
This one is $44. Very nice. Very nice.
The Manchester police are investigating a suspected case of suicide involving a teenager whose family benefited from the government's social housing program a year ago. She is 19-year-old Chevanice Williams of Manningsfield in South Manchester. The teen is believed to have ingested a poisonous substance. The police report that a relative discovered Williams unresponsive at home about 11 a.m. on Wednesday. She was pronounced dead at hospital. The police say there was a green substance coming from her mouth. A year ago, on March 7, Williams delivered the vote of thanks to Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness following the handover of a 3-bedroom house to her family, headed by her single-parent dad.
Our Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Andrew Michael Holness, Member of Parliament, Robert Chin, community and surrounding members, pleasant evening to you all. It is my pleasure to give the vote of thanks on behalf of the Williams family. This house that you have given to us is not only a roof over our head, but it is our home. A hope for a better future. And to our Prime Minister, thank you for being a ray of sunshine. Thank you for showing us that good people still exist in this world. Amen. Thank you.
These are the touching moments.
Chevanice Williams.
Guyana is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the Caribbean's economy. Without them, the rest of us are barely growing. I'm Kalila from Money Media, bringing you money news for the Caribbean. So, according to the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, the region could see economic growth of about 6.2% in 2026. Sounds strong, right? But that number is almost entirely being driven by Guyana's booming oil industry. Without Guyana, the CDB said the expected growth across the rest of the Caribbean drops to just 1.1%. In other words, Guyana is doing a lot of heavy lifting. The country is expected to grow by more than 20% this year, thanks largely to expanding offshore oil production. And that rapid expansion is pushing the region's overall growth numbers higher, making the Caribbean economy look stronger than it actually is. In 2025, economic growth across the Caribbean slowed significantly. While most countries had recovered from the pandemic, the pace of expansion was more moderate than in the years right after COVID-19. And many Caribbean economies still heavily depend on tourism, imports, and global economic conditions. Countries like Jamaica, Barbados, and the Bahamas are also heavily service-based, with construction and infrastructure projects helping to drive activity. The 1-2 punch of Hurricane Beryl and Melissa, plus the USA's changing tariff regime, seriously impacted those sectors. But Guyana was the clear outlier. While most Caribbean economies expanded slowly, Guyana continued its streak of double-digit growth as oil production increased and investment poured into their energy sector. That single economy ended up boosting the entire region's numbers. Now fast forward to 2026 and the outlook looks similar. The CDB says growth across the region will remain modest this year. Service-based economies are expected to depend heavily on tourism and construction to drive economic activity. Commodity exporting countries like Guyana, Suriname, and Trinidad could see mixed results depending on global oil prices and production levels. And then there's the bigger global picture. Small Caribbean economies are still vulnerable to things like global inflation, shifting commodity prices, and geopolitical tensions. Now there's this conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran, which can quickly slow growth in tourism-dependent countries. So while the Caribbean economy might look healthy on paper, the reality is a lot more complicated, and that's the bottom line. So what do you think about this news? Let me know in the comments. Click subscribe for money news like this straight to your inbox. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.
The controversial U.S. military radar in Tobago is gone. A U.S. military plane is expected soon to haul it away. Since November, U.S. personnel have been operating the radar, costing $3 million to operate daily. However, since Maduro's capture in early January, the U.S. presence and now the military radar has quietly disappeared.
There is something that is very devastating happening right now that a lot of Jamaicans and the wider Caribbean is not seeing on their FYP. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch this video.
So we're following some more breaking news, this time out of Cuba, where there is a total blackout. The country is blaming the Trump administration for blocking shipments of needed oil. The government says its national grid is totally shut down. President Miguel Diaz-Canel warned on Friday that the grid was operating on solar power, natural gas, and thermoelectric plants. Cuba has not received any oil imports in 3 months.
Now that you have watched this video, I want to ask some questions. Why are we allowing this to happen? Why is every CARICOM nation sitting and allowing this to happen to one of our most loyal neighbors, one of our most loyal allies? If you don't know me, greetings. The name is Neef and you have entered the chat. Welcome. To officially become a member, please just go ahead and click the plus sign there and like this video. Thank you. Now with that being said, as you can see in the video, Cuba is in an island-wide blackout. No electricity at no ends of the island. What that simply means, everywhere is in dark. No stoplights, no gas station, no hospital have electricity. Hospitals don't have electricity. Hospitals that needs electricity to run the machines to help people. And Cuba is populated with about 11 million people, and 11 million people currently do not have any electricity because they have been sanctioned by the United States for over 3 months now. And we have that same president making remarks like this.
You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now.
No. If within one term this president has directly impacted and invaded 3 sovereign colored nations as a white president, what does this tell you? What does this tell you? Check the history books. What does this tell you? Doesn't this look all too familiar, like the history of Christopher Columbus with Jamaica and a lot of other Caribbean islands? And also with Jamaica and the UK. Doesn't it look the same? Can't we tell what is really going on? But just the modern version? And we're all sitting here like ducks, just looking at each other, watching everything play out. Not realizing that, all it takes is for him to think that the countries that he owns, because he feels like he owns these countries. That's why he's doing this. And nobody's stopping him, so obviously he does. Right? So all the countries that he feels like he owns, if you think for 1 second it needs a regime change, nothing is stopping him. And all of the leaders from the CARICOM nations think that they are safe if they shut their mouth and just allow the bully to do whatever he wants to do and not upset the bully. When now is the time that we as a very vital part of the world should be coming together and starting to make preparations for possible war against the Caribbean countries. Because remember, the white man is not coming to save us, none of those white men. If you think, all the other NATO countries that don't currently agree with what he's doing, remember, they're all white as well. They don't care. None of them is coming to save us. No Germany, no France, no UK. None of them is coming to save us. Only we can save ourselves. We don't even know if China or Russia will come, because guess what? We have laid in bed with the demon for so long. Not even Russia or China want to touch most of the Caribbean anymore. Because we spread with bed, and them see where we spread with bed, so they're not interested. So what will happen? What will happen in that regards? They owe no loyalty to nobody. They don't care. Right? This is a sovereign nation that we're talking about. Cuba is a sovereign nation we're talking about. And all of this is happening just because he believes that there needs to be someone in control of these countries that he can control. He wants regime change in Venezuela, which he already got with the new current president that basically vowed to follow everything that he says. He wants regime change in Iran, that's why he attacks Iran. And he has stated Cuba is next. He wants a regime change in Cuba. He wants to put somebody in place that follows every single thing, every single word that he says. This has all happened in 1 year of his presidency. This man has only been in office for 1 year. So what do we think is going to happen for the next 3 to 4 years that he'll be in power? We're all sitting just watching this happen. But let me tell you this, as much as it is a cliche quote, it is facts. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. Leave your answers in the comment section about what you think about this situation with Cuba. And definitely go ahead and give me a follow so you can be a part of all discussions.
A Florida high school teacher has been sentenced for smuggling guns bound for Trinidad and Tobago. The 47-year-old woman hid 11 pistols, assault rifle components, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition in a punching bag. However, the TTPS intercepted the shipment. She was sentenced to 1 year and a day in prison.
Thank you, Cuba! Thank you, Cuba! God bless Cuba! God bless Cuba! God bless Cuba! Bring back Cuba! Bring back Cuba!
A Caribbean icon, Chuck Winston Norris from Spanish Town, Jamaica, dead at 86. I wonder if Chuck Norris knew before he died how much Caribbean people loved watching Walker, Texas Ranger. When I was little, living in Jamaica, I remember one of the shows that my mother used to, like, it was almost like a religion. She would watch Walker, Texas Ranger. I remember we used to sit on this big, red, ugly couch with plastic on it back in the early 90s, and we used to watch Walker, Texas Ranger. Okay? Now, I'm not saying he's Celine Dion level honorary Caribbean, but he is somewhere, he's like somewhere in like, I don't know, the top 20 honorary Caribbean people. Like, he's iconic, okay? Okay, I just know somebody's Jamaican grandmother or Haitian grandmother or Guyanese grandmother or mother from the Caribbean is having a mental breakdown right now because he's passed, okay? Okay? And I used to think like we were the only ones. Like I used to think like my mom was the only one that was obsessed with that show until I moved to America. And I remember like my friends like from other Caribbean countries, like Haiti and stuff, they're saying that they used to watch Texas, the Texas Ranger show in Haiti and stuff. Like what? But yeah, he's dead at 86. Rest in peace, Uncle Chuck Winston Norris. Rest in peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this amazing video. It's not an amazing video, by the way, because in today's topic or video, we are talking about the blackout in Cuba. Cuba is just a tiny country, by the way. It's a third world country. And even before Iran is done with America, I mean, America on the other hand, it has already started disturbing Cuba, and it actually imposed sanctions on the small island. And in fact, so many people have been protesting in the streets of Kingston today because they believe that Cuba is their closest allies. Remember that when blackout happens anywhere in the world, so many things are affected. That means that industries are not going to work, and in that sense, the economy is paralyzed. Number two, it means that even hospitals, they are not going to be operational. And remember, we also have those patients that depend on these breathing machines, oxygen, that needs to, I mean, this is crazy. What is happening in Cuba now? Only God knows. Only God can save them. Because at this point, we believe that it's the dictator, Donald Trump, who is doing all these bad things to them. If you cut supply of oil into the country, what do you expect? What will you expect? We have seen people of goodwill in a plane going to Cuba and taking medicines with them to help them, because Cubans are suffering now. They can't even have food, afford food. They are in blackout. It's devastating. And Jamaica, on the other hand, they are closely watching their students in Cuba because, you know, once all these things are happening there, it means that even their own people are also being affected the same way as the citizens. So Jamaica has a couple of students there, and they are really working on it to ensure that they are following up to know what is happening. So at the moment as we speak, the entire country, the entire island is facing a nationwide blackout, and millions of Cubans, they don't have access to electricity at the moment. The leaders are actually begging America to at least allow their ships that are carrying the oil into their country to go through, because what is happening now is that America is bombing, America is attacking the ships that are carrying this oil to Cuba. So I mean, as we speak, power keeps going on and off because there is not enough fuel to run power plants, and that is equal to like total blackout. We are seeing videos, we are seeing people are speaking, people are coming out, and that is all we are going to do. So hospitals affected, schools affected, food, especially those who had foods in the refrigerator. Too bad, too bad. So the root cause of all this problem is oil shortage, fuel shortage. At the moment, Cuba is struggling to get oil because of America, whereby America imposed restriction on them, America imposed sanction on them, America imposed a blockade on them, and that is the main reason. You know, America is a superpower. They control most of the things. Remember, if you are anyone in the world, like you can actually have a case, you can be I mean, you know how these things work is very funny. For instance, I have a case here in Kenya. I can still be prosecuted in America, but if you can, an American cannot be prosecuted in Kenya. How unfair is that? Very unfair, right? So you know, Cuba used to rely heavily on oil from Venezuela, but as we speak, the supply is gone, gone, gone. You all remember what happened to Venezuela. The president was arrested, President Maduro. He got arrested and taken to America, and the president of America was very happy to have arrested Maduro. So, since the regime changed, a lot of things have been happening, you know, so many things have been happening. And my good people, at the moment things are crazy there. Just pray for them. I think the best thing that you can do is to pray for them, because this country at the moment, their economy is in crisis. And of course, when there is crisis, prices tend to go higher, because you never know about the next time you're going to get the supplies. And you know, people are dealing with food shortage, long queues, limited transport, because who's going to put their vehicle, or who is going to put their public vehicle transport system in the road, yet they know there is no fuel. So there is a lot of tension inside the country, I can honestly tell you. And of course, people are protesting left, right, center. They want regime change. They're even attacking government buildings. And you all know that that has been how America has been playing. If they don't want you, you know what they do? They recruit somebody, and then they start painting this person as the best of the best for Cuba. And the current one, they start saying that is not nice. I mean, they just make the people to hate their leader. And that is what is happening now. So people are frustrated in Cuba, extremely frustrated, extremely stressed. So America has increased pressure and even talked about changing Cuba's government. And I know they will, because I mean, they have done this on several occasions in Libya, in Venezuela. And you know, the French were trying in the Sahel, but they couldn't, because you know, at least the Sahel region understand what they are doing, what they are expected of, So Cuba has actually pushed back, and tensions are rising. There is dispute, there is embassy issues. I mean, so crazy. But if you are out there and you are able to help them, just help these people. And Russia wanted to send oil there, so I don't know how that will be like, because I understand Russia, America, China, they are not hand in hand, and Russia is actively in, that they always fight for these third world countries to be free, and they were like, we're not going to get ourselves into any conflict with anybody. What you're going to do is to open up the minds of these people, the third world leaders, and that is what they have been doing. But when it comes to China, they have never ever been political in any way. They have even never colonized any country in the world. So there is a lot of humanitarian aid entering Cuba, and people are taking in food, medicines, solar panels, and and other countries also. The Cubans in diaspora, they're putting in food items, anything that the Cubans really need at the moment, and that is a kind gesture, and may the good Lord bless them, may they never lack. But if you look at the bigger picture in this particular story, you will understand that Cuba is dealing with three main things, and that is energy crisis, because there is no fuel, and if there is no fuel, it means that there will be no electricity automatically. They are also suffering from economic collapse. There is inflation, shortages, so many things, and also political pressure, because the citizens of Cuba themselves, they want a regime change. And then on the other hand, we have the Americans, the administration. Actually, when we talk about America, it's their government trying to push things inside there. So thank you so much. If you watched the clip up to this point, I do appreciate your presence. I'll see you in the next video.